Why is Canada targeting U.S. access to Alaska? The relationship between the United States and Canada has always been strong, but tensions are rising. The latest conflict revolves around Alaska. Canada now considers charging tolls or customs fees on U.S. trucks passing through British Columbia. This decision is being seen as a response to the tariffs imposed by the U.S. government under Donald Trump's trade policies. However, beyond trade, this issue is connected to Alaska's growing military and geopolitical importance in the Arctic region. What does this mean for trade, the economy, and defense strategies? The rising tensions between Canada and the U.S. over Alaska. For decades, the only way for U.S. trucks to reach Alaska by land has been through Canada, with free passage allowed. This is essential because Alaska is separated from the rest of the United States, and the only way to get there by land is through Canada. Canada is now considering new policies that could change this. The British Columbia government is considering introducing tolls or customs fees for American trucks. This could slow trade, increase costs, and create serious political disputes if implemented. But why is Canada making this move? The answer lies in trade policies and environmental concerns. Trump's trade war, how tariffs led to Canada's response. Under President Trump's trade policies, the U.S. imposed tariffs on many Canadian products, including steel, aluminum, and lumber. These tariffs hurt Canadian businesses, leading to job losses and economic challenges. In response, Canada introduced its tariffs on American goods. This back-and-forth battle created what is known as a trade war. With the idea of tolls or customs fees on U.S. trucks, Canada is taking another step to counter American trade policies. Some experts believe this will pressure the U.S. to change its tariff policies. However, this move could also hurt American businesses that rely on trade routes through Canada. British Columbia's plan: why charge U.S. trucks? The British Columbia government is evaluating the introduction of customs charges against U.S. trucking vehicles that transit through provincial territories. The move is being made because of the constant trading issues currently affecting Canada and the United States. This decision comes mainly from the trade dispute created by the U.S. tariffs imposed on Canadian products. These tariffs reduce Canadian business competitiveness, which Canada wishes to demonstrate in its ability to survive. Large trucks traveling through Canadian territory present an environmental risk to the natural landscape. The government plans to implement tolls because it believes these fees will decrease pollution while promoting environmentally friendly roadway systems. These tolls have the potential to be a financial source that could benefit the province. The funds collected would enable projects such as road enhancements and upgrades to the public service system. Most American businesses and political representatives think Canadian tolls represent an unfair barrier, further complicating relationships with the United States. The impact on trade between the U.S. and Canada. In 2023, Canada and the U.S. exchanged goods worth over $850 billion. Any disruptions could significantly impact both economies. Canadian-imposed fees on U.S. trucking operations might increase the total price of products transported through Canadian territory. Board rates will ultimately drive up prices that operators must pay to business customers and end consumers. Some American companies will seek different shipping routes to bypass these fees, yet this measure can reduce trade efficiency and produce distribution delays. U.S. authorities have the option to strengthen existing import duties against Canadian products. Any action Canada takes to impose fees on U.S. trucks can escalate trade tensions beyond current levels, complicating business operations across the border. A deteriorating trade conflict would negatively affect businesses that perform international trade due to border disruption, thus damaging employment opportunities and overall economic development in Canada and the U.S. Alaska's strategic importance: trade, military, and resources. Alaska is not just a remote U.S. state. It holds immense geopolitical and economic value. Its strategic location makes it a key player in trade, national defense, and global competition in the Arctic. Trade and economy. Alaska is a crucial trade link between the U.S. mainland and the Pacific, rich in oil, gas, and minerals. Its seafood industry is also vital globally. Since most overland trade routes pass through Canada, any new tolls or fees could raise transportation costs and disrupt business. These additional costs would impact companies relying on cross-border shipments, potentially leading to higher consumer prices and logistical delays. Military and geopolitical role. Beyond trade, Alaska is a cornerstone of U.S. military strategy. The state hosts key U.S. military bases or monitors Russian and Chinese activities in the Arctic. As global warming opens new shipping routes, competition for resources and influence in the region intensifies. Both Russia and China have expanded their presence, increasing tensions. Any weakening of U.S.-Canada cooperation could create security risks, making Alaska even more crucial in maintaining American military dominance and protecting Arctic interests. With economic and national security at stake, Alaska is at the center of growing U.S.-Canada tensions, making diplomatic solutions even more essential. The growing military presence in the Arctic. As Arctic ice melts due to global warming, new shipping routes are opening, making the region more commercially and strategically important. Russia and China have intensified their regional activity following the attention that newly available shipping routes have attracted to them. New shipping routes are opening in the Arctic region because this area contains significant reservoirs of oil and gas resources and is commercially important. States that dominate trade pathways together with natural resources possess more considerable potential to enhance their world power and economic leadership. Canada and the U.S. consider the Arctic region key to their strategic interests. Both nations have teamed up to defend their national domains and prevent foreign powers from exploiting melted ice for territorial growth. Both nations collaborate through programs that support Arctic security alongside environmental protection efforts, since they understand the importance of stability in the region. The expansion of Arctic collaboration between the U.S. and Canada remains at risk because ongoing trade conflicts and border-related disputes continue to strengthen. Any strain between their working relationship would allow other nations to expand their regional presence. Mutual influence would decrease when their cooperation weakens, thus creating obstacles to defending their respective interests. Canada and the U.S. require continued collaboration in the Arctic region to achieve their long-term strategic goals because Arctic resource competition and trade route disputes are intensifying. Potential U.S. retaliation. What could happen next? The American government will impose trade tariffs against Canadian exports when Canada levies tolls on United States trucks, thus causing trade barriers and increased export costs. Businesses in America would look for alternative shipping paths that would increase expense growth and decrease efficiency. The United States can restrict Canadian companies from accessing critical transit channels, which will negatively impact businesses that need seamless border transportation. Given intensifying global disputes in the region, the United States may increase military assets around Alaska with an eye towards a superior Arctic presence. Any retaliatory strategy introduced between the two countries will likely intensify their economic relations by establishing additional trade constraints that ultimately damage business operations and consumer markets. These reactive measures can heighten tensions between the countries, leading to diminished cooperation possibilities. Such economic measures would reach beyond trade impacts because they affect market stability, employment conditions, and industrial sectors. Both nations must find diplomatic alternatives to protect their financial and security interests and sustain a healthy cooperative relationship despite worldwide challenges. Can this conflict be resolved? Despite rising tensions, the U.S. and Canada can find solutions through negotiations. Reducing tariffs would ease trade disputes, benefiting businesses on both sides. Instead of tolls, they could work on joint environmental policies to cut truck emissions. Strengthening military cooperation in the Arctic is also crucial as Russia and China expand their presence. A strong partnership benefits both nations, making dialogue and collaboration essential for economic and security stability. What's next for U.S.-Canada relations? The U.S. and Canada have always been close allies, but trade disputes are straining their relationship. If Canada moves forward with tolls or customs fees for U.S. trucks, it could lead to more significant economic and political conflicts. At the same time, the Arctic is becoming more critical for both countries. Working together in the region is necessary to counter growing threats from Russia and China. The next few months will be critical. If both governments can negotiate, they can prevent a larger trade war. If not, tensions could continue to rise, impacting trade, military strategy, and economic growth. With tensions rising, Alaska has become a focal point in U.S.-Canada relations. The world is watching to see how this unfolds. What do you think about Canada's move? Will this lead to a trade war? Let us know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more updates and hit the notification bell so you never miss a video.